Better behave yourselves.
All right. And welcome to this episode of Better Call Saul. And on this episode, we are going to talk about the digitization of transactions and who survives. Here with Rachael Real and I today is Saul Klein. Hey, guys.
Good morning.
Jennifer.
What's up?
Good. Glad you guys are here today. This is an exciting topic. So, Saul, you are like the technology guru of real estate. So give us some context on why we're talking about this. Why is this such a hot topic right now?
Yeah. So first of all, we hear this phrase all the time, don't we? The digitization of the transaction. And we've been hearing it for years. Mm-hmm. And what we're really talking about is using technologies that are available today to actually participate more in the transaction.
Right.
So that's what we're talking about.
To streamline the transaction.
Streamline it. And the way it's going to be streamlined is through technology.
Mm-hmm.
And this is an important point for realtors. I tell them all the time is if you don't want to be replaced, you have to look at what the technology is doing and figure out what the technology can't do that you can.
Right.
Exactly.
Right. Because it's digitization process. Now, I'll give you an example of this, and then we can kind of go on. I listened to a podcast the other day where the speaker was talking about 1 second application process and a 10-second close.
For a mortgage?
For houses, buying a house. 1 second application, 10-second close. Now, that's a new paradigm for people. But what we're talking about is pre-qualification of the individual and pre-qualification of the property.
Right.
Now, but think about this. When we talk about the digitization of the transaction, we're also talking about compression of commissions. You've heard that phrase a lot, right?
We don't like that.
Compression of commissions. But what does that mean? Compression of commissions. What it means is the things that human beings do will be replaced by digitization.
Except to your point, though, except for the things that we can't do. But I can see a world where the 1 second application and 10-second approval could work. I think that we are going towards that, though, right? Like where everything's online, where money is digital, like there's no anonymity. Everything is tracked. So if everything is tracked, especially like the new generations that are being born, they are more tracked than us. And if everything they do is tracked, then it would be easy to know if they qualify. It would be an ongoing thing because they would always know.
Well, yes,
it would be a perpetual pre-approval process.
Exactly.
Where things are just you're always queued up. And if you want something, you just click on it.
Exactly.
But it would also be for buying. For buying, right?
Absolutely.
The house the same way.
Absolutely.
The house is qualified. The loan is already set to go. You as a consumer go to a website. Your criteria is already there. You release a little bit of criteria so lenders can decide whether or not they want to offer you a loan. They no MLO, no mortgage loan officer. They offer you a loan, you accept it, you push a button, it sends all your stuff.
Actually, when I went and ordered my Tesla, that's what happened. It literally took 5 seconds. They said, "Do you want this loan? Here's the interest rate. Here's the whatever. Click here."
It's almost like the pre-approved credit card offers you get in the mail. It's old school. It's an old school version of that, but we get these pre-approved credit cards.
Well, but it's more than that. Those pre-approval credit cards, you still have to fill out all the application. You still have to fill everything out.
But it's but you already know going into it, hey, you're approved for this. I mean, my younger son just turned 18. And so now he's getting he's opening this stuff up from the bank. He's like, "Oh, I can get a credit card." I'm like, "Oh, hold up.
Hold on.
Let's talk about what this is and how not to get yourself in trouble." But the point being, you're pre-approved for X amount of dollars.
Yeah.
Fill this out, sign here, send it in. You're good.
And you can feed all the information in. So your employer can feed in your salaries, right? So all this stuff, and it takes, split seconds now.
Then maybe we won't have to do taxes though, because it'll already be done.
Well, that's a whole nother topic, right? So let's go back to this digitization and compressing the commission. And the thing that so what does that mean? Compressing the commission. Here's what it means.
I know what it means.
1 second application.
Yeah.
10-second close.
Right.
Okay. So now we look at the loan process. If you could do the application in 1 second, what do you know happened? A bunch of human beings have been taken out of the transaction.
Right. Precisely.
To do it in 1 second.
Do anything in 1 second.
And if we believe it's going to happen in 1 second, we got to believe mortgage loan officers are going to disappear.
Yeah.
Right.
Or at least the way they function now is going to disappear.
Oh, they might then become realtors. The job of a realtor might be to handle both sides, but no.
Everything's going, when you talk about Right. When you talk about the commission compression for a realtor, I almost look at that as our job is going to change, and how are we going to earn what we earn? It's just going to be in a different way.
But I think
because you can't take the human component out of a real estate transaction as much as you try.
I believe you can. I always said you'll never be able to take a human being. I mean, I got my audience, my customers were realtors. Right. So you're not going to get in front of people and say you're not going to be here in a year. No,
right. I think it'll change.
I would always say there always is going to be a need for a human being in the transaction. Right? That was my thing. I don't believe that today. So I don't believe you need. I think generations are changing. I think expectations are changing. Did you look at that clip I sent you on Simone?
Yeah, the hologram concert. Did you see it, Rachel?
All those people. It's like, right.
Anyway, though, I think that's crazy. But I do think, okay, so if we're talking about this, I think that the role of a real estate agent, because, okay, Rachel, I'm looking at your stuff and I give you 25 options of of houses that you can buy and properties you can buy. So as your realtor, you would come to me as more of a consultant.
Exactly. That's what I mean. Our role is going to change. It's going to be different than what it is now. You have so many people, especially
in
this
market.
That's
how it should be now, though.
It should be. I feel like it should be different. I mean, I just met with some sellers yesterday and did a listing agreement, and our listing agreements have changed so much because of all the different things that have changed technology wise.
Yeah.
So going through that listing agreement took an extra half hour just to explain all these different things, because there's so much backstory as to why we have to talk about it now.
Right.
But that said, you have so many buyers in this market that are like, hey, I can find my own house. I can do it myself. I'm going to sell my own house. I can find my own house. I can do it this way, that way, Facebook Marketplace, all these other things. They don't realize that once you just locating the property, buyers locate their own property, 84% of the time. They locate the properties they want to look at or move forward on the internet. And that nobody's arguing with that, but we still are playing an integral role in that, from the point that they find that property to looking at it to getting them to closing.
But then maybe I think that's how a lot of that's going to change is that as agents, we're going to have to find more properties potentially.
If people keep misusing the private network like they do, we're going to have to keep, the human component's never going to go away, because we're going to have to keep doing that.
But that's all going to, I think that's all going to change.
What do you think?
I think just generationally, things are going to change. And
that's
people's
true
expectations, and whether or not we all think you need a human being, right? Then some people don't. We all think you want to live in a house with a white picket fence. It's 3 bedrooms and 2 baths and a little bit of some land. And then we talk to younger people. They want walkability. They want to be close to where they work. So it's different.
Yeah.
Right? So you got different expectations. And so today we talk about what everybody's going to need in real estate. We're talking about from our perspective.
True.
Today, and that's going to be, so you get back, the real important point is people who sell real estate have to define the skill sets required to survive in the business 5 years from now.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So what are those?
Well, I can go to the easy one: communication.
What? That's survive now.
Right? We're not very good at it, right? That's why, and the technology might not get good at it for a while. So again, what we're looking for are things that would be difficult for the technology to take over. Now, again, I think at some point the technology will be able to do, and I'm not the only one that thinks this, but right now, what we have.
Well, they sometimes the technology does a little bit better, right? Because they do like drip campaigns and they do different things where they're staying in touch, follow up. Yeah.
So in California, maybe 20 years ago, maybe 15, a California Association of Realtors developed a technology called Smart Agent.
Okay.
And the purpose of Smart Agent was just to go through and fill out the contract for you. I mean, it's other things, but fill out the contract.
Well, that's better because they fill it out wrong most of the time.
Well, that's the whole thing. Is they created this thing, never got implemented, but they created this thing, and when they were creating it, I'm saying to myself, this is going to be better than the agents, because agents make a lot of mistakes on this thing. They don't explain it all. Now
because they don't read it.
Yeah, I know, because the market's too hot. Right?
No, because they're illiterate.
Right. I got to go out and show 5 houses, or I can spend an hour reading this contract. I think they're going to choose showing 5 houses.
Well, but here's the thing: they should manage their time better.
Yeah.
Well, that too.
You should always read the contract. That's your job.
Well, absolutely.
So do you think, though, they're going to have to be like, as the agent's role will be more consultative? Because if Rachel or whoever, if our customer has 5 houses to choose from, how will they know which one is the best?
So I think absolutely it's going to be, and we've been saying this for 25 years, that the business is going to get more consultative.
Yeah.
Right.
Now we can start, it's manifesting. We can
Right.
start to see it. And so what are the skill sets required? Different than they were in the past. We talked about this in the last show, I think, where there's many new technologies available to people to buy pieces of real estate.
Yeah.
Or rent to own, or
I think you'll have to
these
understand investment ideas more as an agent. Like you're gonna, and we've talked about this almost every show. Like you're gonna have to know what a 1031 exchange is. You're gonna have to understand how Airbnb and those types of models work, how long-term rentals work, how midterm rentals work, how fix and flips work, like all of this stuff.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's
to
plenty of
make
things
yourself
to do.
valuable to a larger group of people.
Yeah. So you refine it, you study. So you got to study. I mean, right. And let's go back to the contract for a second. I always looked at the contract as a way to demonstrate expertise.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So I wanted to use the contract, and I wanted to go over everything in the contract because I wanted to take the time to explain it to them.
Mine's like, you'll be fine, sign it. You'll be fine, sign it.
Yeah, no, I don't want to be that kind of agent, right?
Oh,
Right.
oh, Jennifer.
Just kidding.
So here's another, demonstrate expertise. I guarantee you, and I'll just use this name off because it's the one that comes to mind, Picasa. It's this thing where you can buy a fraction of a property. Now, it sounds to me like a condo when you start looking into it.
Yeah.
But it uses an LLC method, and it's a way to buy pieces of a property for vacation purposes or second homes. So more realtors, more consumers are going to learn about this because this is a startup company and spending a lot of money. It's getting in front of people. What if one of my customers asked me about that product?
Right.
Right. Inevitably, you always get the questions about the newer things that are coming up or things that people haven't heard about before. So you have to know about those things in order to become the expert and retain it.
And there's many of those things out there today. Right.
Yeah.
What
There's
about
a lot.
you sending your kids to college, and there are these websites where you can go and share rooms or buy a place with somebody else, right? So as a realtor, as a consultant, I want to know that. So when the people that live in the area that I service or people in my sphere of influence, they ask a question, we're sending the kid to college. I want to jump up and say, hey, have you heard about this?
Have you tried this?
Exactly.
Have you thought about this? Yeah. Well, what about, okay, let's go back. So if the topic is as we digitize the transaction, who gets to stay and what is their role, right? So initially you said the lender could be removed. And I'm thinking in my head, okay.
Well, not the lender, the mortgage loan officer.
The mortgage loan officer, right?
You still need the lender.
Not the lender.
Still need the money.
I mean, okay, the mortgage loan officer, but I think then the loan process the qualifications will have to change. Like, I think that's more possible for a very straightforward loan.
Right. Anybody that fits inside the box of a traditional loan, that the W-2, employee that doesn't have any.
It's much harder if
things.
You don't fit in the box.
So the models,
if you don't fit in the box, it's a nightmare.
The models that I've seen about this, and I've heard this for a while, they're talking about, the loan qualifications were created in the late 40s.
Yeah.
And we're still using the same criteria. Now, to give you an example, certain minorities, certain people don't use credit.
Right.
They deal in all cash. Well, why? Those people can't buy a house.
Right.
Because they don't have this credit history.
Yeah,
that's stupid.
But
right?
when we have like digital money, that will go away.
Or they'll say another way to qualify, or part of it would be no delinquent rent payments.
Right.
I mean, start to no bankrupt. Start to look at other things. Your job, your employment. How long have you been there? Oh, right. I've been a nurse for the last 12 years. Oh, I'm a sales guy at a sports club, but I make $200,000 a year. Yeah, but for how long?
Yeah.
Right.
So there are other criteria for qualifying somebody instead of the things we've been using for the last 60, 70 years.
But I'm saying it would have to expand in order for the loan officer to be removed.
It's already happened. Now, again, that takes me back to 1 second application, 10 second. Now I think we can already do 1 day application, 10-day close.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. People,
right?
they do
so
that
now
all
they're
the
talking
time.
about like really 1 second. And the point of that is you can't have human beings involved
if it's that
right.
fast.
It's the point of that.
But I think the easiest, I think that title companies are the easiest ones that will get removed quickly once everything's like on the blockchain. because then you have the chain of title, like it's already there.
Well, I don't think that title companies only provide chain of title. I believe title companies provide insurance. And insurance is one of those things you buy and you hope you never have to use it.
Right. But so then they become a provider. They're doing more of that.
Not an active participant, they're a provider instead of an active participant.
Right.
Who's that?
Because they're the title company. Because if everything is in a blockchain.
Insures the deal. They're a very active participant.
But
you gotta have
it. No, you have to have it. But I'm saying like how you get insurance on the house, that's like a provider. They're not part of the transaction.
They're right now they act as both. They act as a participant in the transaction, doing the title research and all of that, but then they also act as the provider by offering the title insurance.
Well, it depends on where you are, because some states, California, we have an escrow. Some states you got to use an attorney to close.
Right.
Now, I'm going to give you a real life example of an attorney closing on a property that, in my opinion, he shouldn't have closed on, because the notary was a Zoom notary that took place 2 months after the Zoom requirement ended. The document to convey title was forged.
Oh, no.
It got recorded. Now, the owner of the property found out it got recorded, found out it was a forgery. The buyer is stuck because they put up the money. The seller's stuck. That's another reason why the seller's stuck. So the buyer, but where does the buyer then go? If there's forgery in the chain of title, where does the buyer go for relief?
Right.
Got to go to the title
company.
Right?
Well, this also begs the question.
Often.
Right. Well, and this also begs the question, in that particular scenario, how on earth would you take a human out of that? Because a human's going to be the one to unravel that, fill in the missing pieces.
But it's pretty hard to forge.
And try to fix
you can't
that.
Really forge blockchain. That's the whole point.
Well, no, but so how do you can identify people easily with technology.
Right.
We're not doing it now. We're still
but that's what we're talking about, right? Like as we digitize and the technology happens, like that, those scenarios, I don't know how often things like that happen, but it would happen less.
Well, yeah, you would think, right? But
although there would be more opportunities for the idiots that that spend all their time figuring out how to hack into things that, may make that problematic too.
Well, and then when I explain title insurance, I always go back to way back. Right. So when I would explain title insurance to people, because everybody has this idea that they don't need title insurance because they just checked the title a while back.
Right.
It's not about checking the title.
True.
That's just
not that.
It's about the insurance. Now imagine that Pocahontas gave some land to John Smith.
Okay.
And then John Smith gave it to his heirs, who gave it to heirs, who gave it to their heirs, who gave it to their heirs, who gave it to their heirs.
I feel like it's more like he took it. But then
then the heirs of Pocahontas step forward and say, you know what? She didn't have the right to give that land away. It really belonged. And so that means that Pocahontas didn't own the property, John Smith didn't own the property, and nobody in the chain of title owned the property. But who has to hold? Who's holding the bag? The last buyer.
Yeah.
The last buyer. And so that's why, even if we think we don't need title insurance, that's why every lender, you ever met a lender a legitimate lender that didn't require title insurance?
Yeah.
I think that's
and this again is the well, and this also demonstrates too why our role as a realtor is going to shift more to educating the client and becoming a consultant and explaining why you need these things.
I wonder too, then,
I found this property online, now I'm going to close. Have a great day. You need all of these things.
If
you have to explain to them why.
Yeah, if we're more of a consultant, I wonder, talking about commissions, does that then make a lot of people go to like charging like a lawyer?
Right, like per hour.
It could, it could.
Possible.
Well, we used to, remember, I got a Facebook post from a person that I used to speak with across the country. And his question, I just got it last night. And the question was, do you ever think it'll go to hourly? I just got that last night. We used to say that, well, why not?
I think it can. It's possible because it's not possible for one person to know everything, right? Like you'll have people that specialize in certain like types of knowledge. And so then instead of having one realtor that you hope and pray knows everything that you need to know in order to make a decision, it may be like your own little board of directors where you get advice from a number of different people.
Well, yeah, we talk about people putting together their team.
Yeah.
Right.
You need a CPA. attorney.
But I'm
you need a
talking about
realtor.
different realtors that know different things, right?
Right.
Well, yeah, it also I think becomes very important is for realtors to learn their product.
Mhm.
And so it
Yeah.
might come back to, I want to learn this neighborhood. Oh, and I want to sell everywhere. No, I want to learn this neighborhood. I want to know when these houses were built. I want to know when room additions took place. I want to know when the streets got put through. Why? Because when somebody comes and they're looking for property in this, I want to be able to tell them everything about it. I want to tell
Right.
them when the schools were built. And so part of the job of the real estate professional of the future is going to be knowing more about their product.
Yeah.
Right.
Which will create more niches.
We talked
Exactly.
about niches and it'll create
And
more
that's
niches.
why I think that you'll need more than one agent. As a customer, they will need more than one agent, because maybe, like, say I'm using Rachel as my realtor, she'll say something that, like, oh, well, maybe I'll consider like an investment property, but maybe she doesn't know a lot about investment property. So then I'll go to you, Saul, and be like, well, what do you think about this? But like, I'll have to pay both of you, right? So it's
Oh
like,
yeah, but it might
Right.
be that it might be that Rachel just decides that she needs to learn that for her business.
it's
Absolutely.
possible.
And she
It
does. And
might
then
be.
you only need, right?
Right. And if I don't know it, and there's things that people ask me right now, though, somebody will call with a question about a commercial property, commercial transaction that I might not know, but I certainly can hang up the phone and in 3 seconds call
Have
a guy that
somebody
I've dealt
else,
with
right?
multiple times. And
But it would
hey,
be
when we have
like,
questions on things, we just call each other.
but it's like a
Right.
doctor too, right? It's like, okay,
Right.
well, you have the
Let me bring in my
generalist,
specialist.
and then you
Right.
have different specialists, but the client has to engage financially with that specialist
Right.
in
Well,
order
see,
to get.
most people are specialist buyers. Most people buy the same thing. They buy a house or a condo.
Yeah.
Right.
It's not like most people buy these other real estate products, right? They don't buy
Right.
apartment building. Most people buy
Yeah, but
houses.
yeah,
They
I
kind of
guess
stay in
that's
the lane that they're
true.
in. Right.
But I think,
Subdivision.
it'll be different though, because it'll be like, it won't be like, well, I want to live in this neighborhood that I've always lived in. It could be like, should I buy here, or where should I go, anywhere in whatever city or whatever country, or should I do something on the metaverse?
Well, yeah, the only thing about the
I think we're gonna
metaverse
have
is
more
hard to get your
choices.
sleeping bag in there.
I'm just saying,
I
look,
still
we don't
think
know
you
what's
need a
going to
house.
happen.
I still think you need a house.
No,
Right.
I think you need a house too, but I think they'll have more choices. I think everybody, they buy similar things, but I think they'll have more choices now. It'll be like, do I buy a piece of a house in
Oh yeah.
Kuala Lumpur, or do I stay in, the suburbs of Chicago?
See, I actually believe that, we're like 5.6 million units behind in the country. We've got
Mhm.
NIMBYism, so we're going to get even further behind in the country with units. Then we've got institutional buyers, because it ain't nothing better than owning real estate and collecting rents on it, and the other
Right.
investments aren't doing as well. So the first time buyer is kind of like out of the market, and
Yeah.
it's not going to get any better anytime soon. But we know the only way to build wealth really for most people is to buy real estate. And so we talked about this before. You're going to be able to buy fractional pieces of real estate.
Right.
Right. And then you say, well, where would I sell it? There's going to be a whole market for it. Like
Yeah.
I got some Bitcoin. Where would I sell it? There's marketplaces where people will buy Bitcoin, right? I got
Right.
some Ethereum, right?
Right.
There are marketplaces. I own a piece of 7 houses.
Yeah.
Eventually there'll be marketplaces for everything. Right. So we'll be able to sell these. Maybe I buy, I got a little money. I buy $25 worth of this house. And then I got a little money next month. And by the end of 10 years, it's gone up in value. And now I can buy my own house. Maybe.
Yeah. I think though, like the general consensus, like, will realtors be squeezed out? I think that we're all saying no. I think no, because even though the computer can maybe pull the deals, they can analyze the deals, they can do all these things, there's still going to be a need for a consultant to walk you through what that crap really means. Like, what does it
We have so much
really
more
mean?
data now. We have so much more data now that it's overwhelming to the consumer. So I
Yeah.
think our job is going to be more, here's the information. What does this mean to you?
Yes.
When I think back about, God, what was it? Early 90s when I worked in a Century 21 office, like right out of high school. The information what I did there was wait for the big giant books to come on a Thursday and Friday, take the agent's lists of things that they were looking for, stand at the Xerox machine, photocopy the pages, cut them out and put them in an envelope. I mean,
Nice.
the job back then was completely different than what it is now.
No, but think about this.
So
You
different.
you just did the things differently, but you do all the same things.
You do the
Yeah.
same things, but in such a different way. I mean, what I can do now, or the amount of time it takes me to do that now for 15 agents, if I was still doing that, would take me 10 minutes as opposed to 6 hours.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, so one of the things you're going to have,
that matrix printer in the office, you know.
well, and remember the pictures, right? You got to take pictures, you got to
Yes.
develop them, you got to get glue sticks so you
You
can
got to
glue
send it
them
to
to the
Kodak in a little
flyers,
hut.
right? So, but
Yep.
so get back to this idea of more transactions, because the faster you can have transactions,
Right. The more you can
then
do.
the asset becomes more of a liquid asset,
Right.
Mhm.
right? And so people were always kind of afraid to buy in real estate because you couldn't sell it tomorrow.
Right.
Right. But now if there's, and that's what they believe is going to happen, that we're going to end up with more liquidity in the marketplace, that real
Yeah.
estate will become a more liquid asset.
Yeah.
And that
Well,
tends-
once you can get it going faster and transacting faster, it
Then you'll
does
have
become
more
more
transactions.
liquid, right? Like this time that it takes to complete a transaction. I mean, some states are like 60
cumbersome.
days. It's
It's really,
ridiculous.
every transaction I go through, I sit there and go, God, this could have been so much easier and so much more efficient.
And it
I'm
will
just
be.
waiting for that to happen.
Yeah,
Right.
and it will be, because again, go back to think about how many people touch a transaction.
Too many.
And how many
If you
people
want
mess
to
up a
cut the cost
transaction.
out, you got to take some hands out of the deal.
Yeah.
Right.
And you got to
Right.
use the technology to simplify the process to make it more efficient. And I
Yep.
like your question in the beginning, Saul. You asked like, how did you word it? It was perfect. It was like, look at the role of a realtor and what can technology like not do? And that
Right.
will be,
Right.
and like double down on learning that. Where do you need to be
Right.
in 5 years?
Yep. What is this technology doing? And that what can it not do?
Right.
Right.
Right. And that's where you focus your energy.
That's
Right.
awesome. Any final thoughts, Rachel?
I think, just from a realtor standpoint, in order to be able to continue to adjust for what's going to happen as we move forward, you just have to plug into the education and the training and all of those things, because the training and the education that's offered every year morphs with what's happening in the industry. So you have to continue to learn. You have to continue to be open to learning so that
And
you
I
can
think
keep
you
up
go
with what's going
outside
on.
of the board stuff, because a lot of the board stuff is not
Right. And it depends on your board. I mean, our board offers all kinds of great, awesome things.
Right.
I mean, better things than what the brokerages offer,
Mhm.
better things than what the online platforms offer. So it really
Mhm.
depends on your brokerage, or not your brokerage, but your board.
Your board. True.
Well, and here's an issue. Here's an issue that we used to always confront with education. And that is that when continuing education came in as a requirement,
Mhm.
good education went out.
Yeah.
Right.
That's for
Yes.
Right? We used to go to stuff, you didn't get CE credit because there was no such thing. But I went to Fred Crane's seminar and paid $99 so I could figure out how to take over loans
Right.
Right.
without the lender foreclosing.
Right.
Right.
So I paid $99 to go to an all-day seminar to listen to the
Right.
attorney that handled the case. And I didn't get any CE credit for it. And so
Right.
what happened when CE came in, that became the criteria for people selecting courses.
Yeah.
Exactly. Because
Right.
if you're going to do it, you might as well get a double bang for your buck. I have to do it, but I want credit so that I
Exactly.
don't have to do something else. You
Yeah.
have to be open to doing other things, because there's a million and one other classes, courses, training, all kinds of things that
Or
are
we could just get rid of
far
CE.
better. Well,
Yeah,
I
get rid
would
of
agree
CE.
that what I'd like to see instead of CE is I'd like to see agents have to take a licensing exam every couple of years.
Yeah.
Because I'm telling you right now, it would weed out about a half the agents. I'm
So
not
I used to write CE courses and teach CE courses, and I would tell you CE is worthless in my mind.
Oh, it's
And I'm
100%
an instructor, and I was an instructor, and I wrote
Mhm.
courses, and I taught. It's worthless. Now, from
Mhm.
my perspective, I don't have to take CE anymore
Okay.
because I'm over 70
You
years
can
old.
take mine.
Yeah, I don't have to take it. The last time I renewed my license, they got this thing in California when you get to be 70 years old and you've been in
Mhm.
business for so long and you have a good, clean record, you don't have to take CE anymore.
Because they know it's useless.
Well, hey, they know it's useless, and they know if you're old
And they
like
know
me,
you
you're not going
know
to probably
it.
go out and sell real estate anyway. You're going to stay
Well,
home.
that, and if you've been managing to stay clean for that many years, then you know what you're doing.
That just means nobody told on him, Rachel.
They never got caught, right?
Mhm. Hey, Saul, I think a big component of this digitization is also going to be the data and in understanding like what data do we have, what data do we have access, what data do we need? How can people find out more about that?
Well, if you come to the dataadvocate.com, we're starting to write a lot about this stuff.
Yeah.
And so it's real important to look at the data, look at the kind of data, look at how deep the data is. And I mean, I'm looking at stuff like on every parcel of land, how many jobs are there? How many people live? I mean, it's like stuff that you didn't even think you want until you start looking at it.
Right.
And then you say, that's a good thing to have.
Yeah.
Wow, I wish I knew that. Right. And so
Right.
so we're going to see more data in the future. Come see us at the Data Advocate. We're getting ready to move the site again. But there's some real big things happening, and people just need to know about it and get back to just understanding data.
Yeah. I agree. Because we'll have to analyze it. That's what we're going to be doing. Is
Right.
your contact information on that site too, or what's the best way to get a hold of you?
It is, or Saul at bettercallsaul.realtor.
Okay. And Rachel, if somebody has a referral, you are a broker in Chicago. What is the best way to get a hold of you, or if they want to talk to you about anything?
The best way to reach me is via email at rreal@dealwithreal.com or on Facebook at Rachael Real Estate.
Awesome. Well, thanks for being on, guys. Hopefully we sufficiently scared everyone.
I hope so.
We do. We do good at that. We're good.
Exactly. All right. I'll talk to y'all later.
Take care.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.